This is over 1 hour of insane Blue Lock lore and theories. So let's begin with...
Did you ever wonder who the best teen in Blue Lock is? What about the best 20-year-old? Or even better, who the best player over the age of 30? Well, in today's video, I'll be picking the best players from each age group, starting off with the youngest all the way to the oldest. So let's kick things off by choosing the best 15-year-old in the show. Now, as you can probably guess, there aren't many 15-year-olds in Blue Lock. In fact, there's only one, Charles Chevalier. You see, some fans may think that Nico, Nanase, and even Naruhaya are at this age range as well, but that's not the case. Seeing as all three of these players were 15 when the Blue Lock project started, but after a couple of chapters, they all aged up by 1 year, so at the time of recording this, they're all 16. So technically, that leaves Charles as the only true 15-year-old right now. But let's be clear, Charles didn't need to win by default. Even if he had competition, he'd still come out on top. Charles is easily better than most players older than him, which is quite impressive if you ask me. Even the fact that he has meta vision at such a young age when other characters only figure out this ability when they were 19! IQ. He's also a talented learner, and if Loki trusts your talent so much to go out of his way to nurture it, then you have to be the best. That's one category down, 6 more to go. Let's carry on by choosing the best 16-year-old in Blue Lock. Unlike the 15-year-old age range, 16 has quite a few good players, such as Corona or even Nanase. Both have shown flashes of how dangerous they can be. Nanase, for example, has a similar weapon as the best striker in the world. Perfect ambidexterity with both feet. He's used it countless times to support Rin, especially in the match against Bastard München. Similarly, Corona did the same for Isagi in this exact match, even going as far as to be recognized by Noel Noah. Not directly, but he did put him on to help the team score more goals, so that must mean he recognizes his talent. However, they're not the best players of this age range because that spot goes to none other than Itoshi Rin. Not only is Rin the best player at age 16, he's literally the best player in the entire Blue Lock project. We're talking about a guy who literally dribbled past the entire Bastard München team and then went, let me run that back, it wasn't good enough. Like, what? Even Loki himself thought Rin was absolutely insane to do this. Rin literally turned back and asked all the Bastard players if they've ever risked their lives for football. Bro, it's just soccer, not Warzone, man. Chill out. I don't think there's any doubts about this one. With that category covered, let's move on to the 17-year-olds, where some of the best players in the entire series are. Can you guess who will win this one? But before that, I have a question for you. Have you risked your life to subscribe to your favorite anime YouTuber? If not, offer up your lives and hit that subscribe button. Okay, I'm joking. But seriously, subscribe. When it comes to the 17-year-olds, 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 and Isagi are the obvious favorites, as they are quite literally monsters among men in this category. Their insane footballing ability puts them among the best players in the whole show, and for good reason. Take 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓, for example. His dribbling is so crazy that even Lavinho praised his style of play. Not to mention, they're both literally lunatics obsessed with football. 𝒂𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 has done things like this, and even sent a fan-favorite character straight out of Blue Lock. Isagi's no stranger to being a football lunatic either, as he literally lost his mind when Kutagami stole his goal. My man was cussing everybody out and definitely backed up all that trash talk by taking over the entire team with the final goal of the NEL. Not to mention, Isagi is one of the highest IQ players in the series, outsmarting players like Rin and even the master strikers. He even stopped Chris Prince's ridiculous knuckleball. There's also Nagi, Ryo, Kunigami, and Chigiri, who could be great candidates for the top spot. But there's still one player I haven't mentioned that blows away every single person in this category. I'm of course talking about the prodigy himself, Julian Loki. This man literally ran faster than a frickin' ball to stop a free kick with his legs. This has to be illegal. Seriously, look at this. One panel he's here while the ball has already been shot. The next he's all the way in the air doing things like this to stop stop it. Oh, and did I mention he's a master striker? He's the fastest player in the world. Noah himself says Loki is the only real threat to his throne. All of this at just 17 years old. Nothing else needs to be said. Loki is easily the best 17-year-old. In the 18-year-old age group, there really is only 3 options to choose from, if we're being completely honest. But before we reveal who between these 3 holds the title as the best player, let's take some time to look at all the other candidates for this age, because there's actually a lot of talent here. You have players like Ryu, 𝑦𝒂𝒆𝒄𝒐𝒎𝒆, Otoya, and even the GOAT himself, Gagamaru. But there is one player that's way better than all of them. I'm talking about Karasu. Now, Karasu is an interesting case because upon his introduction, he was regarded among the best strikers in the entire project, even making the top 6 in the 3rd selection. But from then onwards, he kinda had a huge fall off. Being surpassed by Isagi in terms of being an actual striker, he was relegated to becoming a defensive midfielder, but this is where his talent shined the most. Not only is Karasu great at using his body to get past any opponent, he's also a great leader, which is an important factor for defensive midfielders. He was also revealed to be a talented learner and was even able to block Isagi's 2-gun volley after his whole evolution. But he still falls a little short compared to the 3 top tiers of this category. Before we get to the monster that is 𝒂𝒆𝒄𝒐𝒎𝒆, let's talk about Shido and Ballon. I mean, these two are literally ranked 3rd and 4th in the NEL salary auction, which already tells you the type of players we're dealing with. Shido probably has one of, if not the best goal ever scored in Blue Lock under his belt, and his weapon of sensing where the goal is without even looking at it is just insane. Maru is no pushover either. Not only does he have $150 million offer to join Ubers, he also brought back Snuffy from almost retiring just so he can surpass him. However, 𝒂𝒄𝒐𝒎𝒆 is just on a whole other level compared to these two. First of all, he's a literal new Gen 11, the best U20 players in the entire Blue Lock world. He's also the same guy that unleashed Shido's insane potential, giving him passes that pushed his imagination to the absolute limit, forcing him to evolve. Not to mention the fact that he wasn't even trying throughout the U20 Japan match and still dominated, even getting a goal for himself. He's literally called Japan's greatest treasure. And although his feats don't quite scale to other new Gen 11s because he hasn't really been able to go all out yet, it's clear that 𝒂𝒄𝒐𝒎𝒆 is leagues above every player in the 18-year-old age range. The best club in the world wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't. We still have 3 more categories to talk about, so let's move on to the 19-year-olds. In this age group, there are quite a few former Japan U20 players like the Iron Wall Quartet that made it really hard for the Blue Lockers to score, but Reen still turned each of them into pure fodder. There's also Alexis Ness, who is actually a really good contender for first place. Despite being overly reliant on Kaiser, he still has some cool abilities though, like the Skyborn Daisy Cutter, a super clean pass between 2 defenders that hugs the ground while slowly rising up in the air. The pass is so perfect that it doesn't affect the speed of the player meant to receive it, or even his shield flick, but these skills aren't going to help him become the best player in this age group because there are 3 other players in this category that surpass him. Kaiser, Lorenzo, and Aiku are absolute units when it comes to football. Aiku has incredible understanding of the game and exceptional leadership. He's also been shown to possess the insane visual prowess that is metavision, which gives him an omnipotent perspective of the field, allowing him to make tackles like this and even this. But there's something that Lorenzo and Kaiser have that Aiku doesn't: the title of new Gen 11, so naturally they are ahead of him in this ranking. Between Kaiser and Lorenzo, the decision could really go either way. You could say that Lorenzo is the best player at this age because he single-handedly kept Kaiser quiet throughout their match, and only after Kaiser had escaped Lorenzo's hold momentarily was he able to score this ridiculous goal. However, Kaiser, in my opinion, takes the spot for best 19-year-old for now, simply because he has the highest salary offer in the entire series with a $400 million offer to join Real Madrid and play alongside 𝒂𝒄𝒐𝒎𝒆. There is no ways a club like Real Madrid is putting up such high figures for a player that is anything less than the best. Plus, he has a cool neck tattoo, so that gives him brownie points. Before I finally reveal who the best player over the age of 30 is, let's go over the best 20 to 30-year-old. Now, this age range has some of the most mind-boggling, ridiculously talented players in the entire world. Each of them could literally solo every player previously mentioned. Players like Pablo Cavazos, who's known for being a free kick specialist, best. He's able to make a goal out of any dead ball situation. Not only that, Ego himself handpicked him to be one of the World 5, a group created to show the Blue Lockers the level of the best in the world. There's also players like Adam Blake and Dada Silva, who we know little about, but we can assume that they are extremely strong players. And we also have the Leonardo Luna, who fans theorize to be the guy who destroyed Itoshi Sai's goal to become a striker. He also plays for Real Madrid and looks like he has some ties to Bunny Iglesias, a striker for Barcelona and New Gen World 11. But what if I told you that not even Luna is good enough to even hold a candle to these two behemoths in the world of strikers? Chris Prince is regarded as the second best striker in the world, only behind Noel Noah, and has even come second in the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award. Despite all of this, one of his most impressive feats, the illogical knuckleball, was blocked by Isagi. That really hurt his status as one of the best in this age range. But it gets even worse, because even Otoya was able to maneuver past him to score a goal against Manshine. Talk about fraud Prince. So I'm giving this category to Levinho. While Isagi was able to stop Chris Prince's shot, he couldn't get near Levinho during the match against Barca, albeit a much weaker Isagi, but still, the way Levinho was portrayed as a god of dribbling, with Noah stating that Levinho is the best in the world at surprising his opponents and leaves every player in a state of total defeat after dribbling past them, tells you everything you need to know. Now for the best players over the age of 30, as you might imagine, there aren't many players 30 years or older, but the ones that are definitely the best of the best. We obviously have the best striker in the world, Noel Noah, in this category, and the best overall player in Mark Snuffy. But there is one more person you probably forgot. You see, 𝑩𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 was stated to be Noel Noah's rival, and although he's retired now, in his prime, he was 1000% an extremely strong player. So who is actually the best player over the age of 30? Since the question is who is the best player over the age of 30 and not the best striker, then it has to go to Mark Snuffy.
Okay, that was pretty insane. Now for some insane facts you didn't know about Isagi.
Did you know that Blue Lock lied to you about Isagi? The anime makes him seem like this selfish, ego-driven striker who cares for nothing but crushing others to become the best in the world. In reality, Isagi is actually super selfless. According to the Egoist Bible, the official Blue Lock character book, if Isagi was ever given a fortune of 100 million yen, he wouldn't really know what to do with that amount of money, and instead would most likely give the entire amount to his parents. This is by far the most selfless fact about Isagi, and it makes him so much more likable as a character. Aside from wanting to be the best striker and win the World Cup, he also wants to support his parents financially at the end of the day. Considering that winning the World Cup would net him nearly the equivalent of $40 million, it is a hefty prize. This truly gives Isagi another complexity to his character. Now, this is just one of the many Isagi facts I discovered, and we're just getting started because each fact I share is just a little bit more interesting than the last. And next, let's talk about the crazy reason why Isagi washes his head first before anything else when taking a bath. When Isagi takes a bath, the very first thing he washes is his head, because his father taught him it's better to wash from the top than from the bottom. Yeah, I know, right? Pretty weird. But it actually says a lot about how Isagi thinks and plays. See, starting from the top can be seen as thinking first before taking action. Exactly how Isagi approaches football. He uses his brain before his body. He scans the field using his spatial awareness and metavision, analyzes all scenarios, and then makes his move. It's a small, almost funny detail, but it gives a glimpse into his upbringing. His dad literally taught him to start from his head. And that fits perfectly because in Blue Lock, Isagi's head is his strongest weapon, his command center. One of the juiciest facts about Isagi is that, yup, you guessed it, he actually has a type when it comes to girls. Yeah, so according to the Egoist Bible, apparently Isagi's type is a kind person who smiles and laughs a lot. Aw, so cute! And I already know a few of you watching just fell a little harder for him after hearing that. It's such a wholesome and genuine answer coming from someone who's supposed to be this ego-driven striker. It shows that underneath the fierce competitor is a down-to-earth, kind-hearted guy who values warmth and positivity. I mean, I definitely want to be friends with Isagi. Although, I don't think he would appreciate the fact that I think Ronaldo is the GOAT and not Noel Noah. Did you know that Isagi Yoichi actually enjoys art? Yeah, I know. Not exactly what you'd expect from someone whose whole life revolves around becoming the best striker in the world. This fact seems to imply that he has had some fun or even some aptitude in the field of art. Maybe he visited a famous art museum like the British Museum in London or even the Louvre in Paris. Though, given how wild the world's been lately, maybe not the Louvre right now. Still, this little fact opens up a whole new layer to his character. It is most likely that Isagi has some artistic skills at his disposal, but it could also explain his rather creative methods of surviving in Blue Lock as a result of his artistic interest. That said, Isagi's goals aren't exactly artistic masterpieces. He's not flashy like Bachira or Shido. His finishing is all about precision and efficiency, not style. Overall, Isagi may not be an artist in a career sense, but it's certainly an interesting thought to see where his preferred fields of thought lie. One thing that's even more fascinating about Isagi than just his interest in art is the fact that if he had one last day on Earth, he'd spend all day eating his favorite food, kintsuba, with some tea on the side. Although where exactly he would do this is left up to interpretation. Kintsuba yaki is essentially a cooked pastry that can be made in a variety of flavors and shapes. Considering that during his time in Blue Lock, Isagi had to live off natto, fermented soybeans, not exactly everyone's favorite, it's no wonder he might miss his favorite food. Despite the simplicity of such a question, the answer provides a humble feeling to Isagi's inner thoughts. Hopefully, by the time it's his last day on Earth, he will have lived a fulfilling life and a good career. But that isn't until a very long time in the future. Haha. Here's one for the boys. Not only does Isagi have a type, he also has a favorite body part on a girl. And according to official sources, that happens to be thighs. Yup, big, juicy thighs. Isagi's got a thing for them. Pretty unexpected coming from our calm, analytical striker, right? Now, maybe there's more to it than it seems. You could argue that for a striker like Isagi, who constantly reads body language on the field, legs tell as much of a story as eyes do. Strong thighs mean strong movement, and in football, reading those movements can be the key to predicting tackles or openings. Yeah, I'm just grasping at straws here at this point. Isagi just likes himself some thighs. Apparently, Isagi's astrological sign is Aries, and the more you think about it, the more it makes perfect sense. Aries are known for being passionate, confident, and fiercely motivated. All traits that define Isagi to the core. He's a natural leader who channels his energy into action, always ready to push himself and everyone around him to the limit. Whether it's on the field or in competition, that unstoppable drive and fire in his eyes scream Aries energy. When you watch Isagi play, you can feel that passion. Every goal, every read, every calculated move is fueled by pure determination. He doesn't just want to win, he needs to. And that aligns perfectly with the Aries spirit. Bold, ambitious, and never backing down from a challenge. Just like how we love reading Blue Lock. The Blue Lock players themselves are mega fans too, and each one has their own favorite series. Bachira likes ping pong, Kira Death Note, obviously, Chigiri Attack on Titan, Kunigami One Piece, and Isagi's favorite is Cyborg Kuro-chan. Cyborg Kuro-chan is a manga series surrounding a kidnapped black cat that was turned into a cyborg by a mad scientist. After removing the program chip, the cat becomes a vigilante and participates in a lot of wacky but interesting adventures, ranging from urban destruction to parallel universes. It's such a random but perfect pick for Isagi. Cyborg Kuro-chan is about adapting, thinking fast, and taking control of your own destiny, which is exactly what Isagi does in Blue Lock. Even his favorite manga subtly reflects that balance of chaos, intelligence, and heart that defines him as a character. Isagi also has a favorite movie, My Neighbor Totoro. It seems that Isagi has good taste when it comes to movies, considering that My Neighbor Totoro is a Studio Ghibli film that is extremely popular. Apparently, every time Isagi watches it, he ends up wishing he had an older or younger sister of his own, which is just so adorable. Kind of funny that the movie's entire vibe is the complete complete opposite of Blue Lock. Totoro is all about comfort, nature, and calm, while Blue Lock is about pressure, ambition, and chaos. But maybe that's exactly why Isagi loves it. It's his escape, a reminder of innocence and warmth in a world built entirely around competition.
Did you know Isagi's favorite animal is actually a spiny lobster?
Yeah, not a dog, not a cat, a lobster. Pretty unusual, right? But the reason behind it makes total sense. According to the Egoist Bible, Isagi says he likes spiny lobsters because they have good form and structure. This isn't a difficult parallel to make when comparing to his own experiences, as his soccer career requires him to have a good form as well as proper footwork and stamina. Since the spiny lobster has not only a large shell, but also antennae that allow it to sense the area around it, it ties into Isagi's great spatial awareness in the field. So, even though it might sound like a random choice at first, it actually ties directly into who Isagi is, a player who values structure, awareness, and adaptability. Leave it to him to turn a lobster into a symbol of elite striker intuition.
One of Isagi's favorite things to do in his free time is surprisingly simple. He loves to go for walks.
It might not sound like much, but this quiet habit actually reveals a lot about his mindset. We've seen him do it before, most notably after his heartbreaking loss in the prefectural finals, one of the lowest points in his early soccer career. For Isagi, walking isn't just a hobby. It's a way to clear his head, process emotions, and reflect on what went wrong or what comes next, which helps him a lot in performing better. It's also a hobby that fits his character perfectly. Isagi's greatest strength isn't raw talent or ego. It's his ability to think, to observe, and to grow. And a simple walk gives him space to do exactly that. It's a reminder that sometimes even the best strikers in the world need to slow down, breathe, and think things through.
I know you didn't expect those facts. Next up!
From a loser high school player with big dreams to a demon king capable of carrying an entire match on his own, these are all of Isagi's forms in Blue Lock. And let's start with his high school player form. Isagi always dreamed of becoming the best striker in the world. As a kid, he would picture himself scoring in the biggest games, lifting the biggest trophies. He knew deep down that to reach that level, he needed a striker's hunger to win at all costs. But his coach drilled a different lesson into him, that football isn't played by one, it's played by 11. One for all, and all for one. As a high school player, Isagi sported a white and black football kit with the number 11 on it. One day during the prefectural final, Isagi had his chance to prove to everyone he has what it takes to be a great striker. The score was 1-0. If he scored, his team could tie the game and push it into extra time. With the ball at his feet, Isagi dribbled past 1, 2, 3 defenders with one goal in mind, going to nationals. His eyes locked on the goal. This was it, his chance to shine. But just as he prepared to shoot, a teammate burst into the box yelling for a pass. Isagi hesitated. His coach's words echoed in his head. Isagi, realizing that this pass could increase the likelihood of his team scoring, he ignored his ego and passed the ball. And then the unthinkable. The shot clanged off the post. Soon after, the Kukuo High School team countered, with their star player Kira scoring a goal and crushing Isagi's dream of reaching nationals entirely. Devastated, Isagi stood with his head down. His teammates cried while his coach told them to be proud that they made it this far. But Isagi could only stand there, hollow. He knew the truth. If he had taken that shot, his dream would still be alive. That afternoon, Isagi walked home saddened by the defeat. He broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he shouted into the night. But fate wasn't finished with him. As soon as he got home, a letter arrived from the Japan Football Union, an invitation to join a specialized training program called Blue Lock. There are still 6 forms left to cover, and let's continue with number 299, Isagi. Isagi arrived at the Blue Lock facility alongside Kira. They were met with 298 other strikers from all across Japan, and on the stage, the man behind everything, Jinpachi Ego. With a microphone in hand, Ego declared his mission. Blue Lock would create the best striker in the world, a weapon capable of leading Japan to World Cup glory, and he dared anyone who truly believed in themselves to walk through the door. Without any hesitation, Isagi sprinted towards the open door, claiming he is a striker. The players were then taken to a remote facility on a hilltop. Their phones and other belongings were confiscated. Each player was given a new uniform to wear with their rank. For Isagi, it was number 299. Assigned to room Z, he reunited with Kira Kira and met other high school forwards like Bachira, Kunigami, and Igarashi. Ego revealed the winners of Blue Lock would play in the U20 World Cup in 6 months. The losers? Well, they would never wear the Japan jersey again. To pass the first test, the 12 players had to play a little game of tag. The only difference with this game, they used the ball. Each player had 136 seconds to strike someone with the ball. The last man tagged would be eliminated from Blue Lock. The game started with the ball bouncing all around the room, time ticking away until boom! Kunigami accidentally blasted it straight into Isagi's stomach. With just 1 minute left, Isagi had to find someone, anyone to hit, or his journey would end before it even began. That's when he saw Igarashi on the ground, injured after colliding with Bachira. He was an easy target, but something in Isagi shifted. If he wanted to change his life, he had to aim higher. He ignored Igarashi and turned to Bachira, who then stole the ball from him and attacked Kira instead, missing, but laying the ball off perfectly for Isagi to strike it. And in that moment, Isagi's ego was born. With no hesitation, he fired, slamming the ball straight into Kira's face, ending his career. And now finally, let's move on to Isagi's awakened ego form. Over the next few days, Team Z was thrown into a grueling fitness program, preparing them for their first real challenge. That challenge came in the form of Team X. Dressed in a blue vest, shorts, and the tight Blue Lock bodysuit underneath, Isagi stepped onto the field. But this was a bizarre match for Isagi, because all players in Blue Lock were actually forwards. They couldn't possibly play as a team when everybody wants to be the hero. And in that chaos, one man seized the spotlight: Baro Shoei. Baro dominated the pitch, showing what it truly meant to be the leading actor of a team. With his arrogance and overwhelming presence, Team X crushed Team Z 5-1. Kunigami's long-range strike being the only consolation. This was a brutal wake-up call for Team Z. If they wanted to survive, they had to adapt. So they devised a plan. Every game, one player would take the striker role, while the others would sacrifice and shape the formation around him. This plan worked really well against their opponents, winning the second game 2-1 with Isagi finally getting his first goal as a striker. He loved the feeling of winning so much, that night he couldn't sleep. The thrill of scoring consumed him. He replayed the goal over and over in his mind, desperate to recreate it. Later, while reviewing the footage with Chigiri, Isagi uncovered something crucial. His true weapon wasn't speed, strength, or even technique. It was spatial awareness, the ability to see the entire field at once. At first, he was using it only on instinct, but now he began to train himself to wield it consciously, guiding his movements, anticipating openings, and setting up his teammates. He even reignited Chigiri's passion, assisting his goal and pulling him back into the game. However, the last match proved to be extremely difficult for Isagi and Team Z, as they faced up against a trio of prodigies. The difference in level was staggering. Within minutes, Team Z was down 3-0. It looked hopeless. Then, in a desperate charge, Bachira danced through defenders and scored, lighting the spark of a comeback. Moments later, Kunigami smashed in another, making it 3-2 at halftime. Isagi was in awe of how good everyone was. He wished to be able to score like Nagi or dribble like Bachira. And then, it happened. Remembering his training match against Baro, he figured out that his ideal shooting zone was 19 meters away from the goal. In a moment of pure intensity, Isagi broke past his limits and beat Nagi, scoring using his new direct shot. This was the turning point for Isagi. He finally awakened his ego, giving Team Z the victory. The genius of adaptability. Upon going through the first selection of Blue Lock, Isagi was met with a new obstacle: Itoshi Rin. Showing his new ego, Isagi immediately challenged Rin to a match. However, this match did not go so well for him. Rin absolutely outclassed him and the rest of his team, even stealing Bachira in the process. This made Isagi realize that he needed to get stronger in order to face Rin once again. So in an attempt to recover from that brutal defeat, Isagi and Nagi challenged Baro and Naruhaya to a match. But this wasn't just any match, it was a true test of ego. If Isagi and Nagi lost, one of them would be kicked out of Blue Lock. Likewise with Baro's duo. The match began began, and Baro wasted no time scoring the first goal, giving his duo the lead. But Nagi answered back with his own spectacular goal. Not too long after, he scored a brace, giving Isagi and him the lead. This match really felt like a show of strength between Baro and Nagi, with Naruhaya and Isagi being the extras. Isagi felt this too, until he had another awakening. In order for him to have an effect on this match, he had to change to be able to adapt. So in a moment of internal thought, Isagi figured out how to mix his weapon of spatial awareness, direct shot, and Naruhaya's off-the-ball movement to create a killer goal formula that sealed the win. Falling on his knees, Naruhaya cried, knowing his career is over. He looked to Isagi and called him the adaptability genius. Recruiting Baro to the team, Isagi and Nagi made their way back to Rin by beating Ryo's trio and stealing Chigiri. The revenge battle finally began with Bachira on the attack, dribbling past every player until Isagi read his pass and countered with Nagi and Ryo finishing the move. This form of Isagi impressed Bachira. He wasn't the same anymore. He evolved into a new egoist. He was smarter, stronger, and an overall better player. But Itoshi Rin wasn't phased, dancing past Nagi, Ryo, and Isagi to equalize, making the score 1-1. Isagi realized that to beat this team, he had to devour Rin. The match was brutal, with ridiculous goals, new awakenings, and insane trash talking. With the score now at 4-3 to Rin's team, Isagi needed to dig deeper into this new ego of his and adapt to the point where even the best player in Blue Lock couldn't predict what he would do. And that's when it happened. Using his teammates as a distraction, Isagi ran to the near post undetected, ready to release his direct shot, but suddenly Rin appeared with the scariest look on his face. But Isagi predicted this. Isagi adjusted, adapting to the situation and changing his direct shot into an inverse direct shot, scoring the equalizer and absolutely owning Rin. It's important to note how crucial the concept of luck was in Isagi losing this match despite beating Rin. We still have 3 forms left to cover, and let's move on to Isagi's Hero of Blue Lock form. Sometime after the second selection, Isagi and the Blue Lockers went on a final training camp in preparation for the U20 Japan match. And in this training camp, Isagi tapped into a power he wasn't familiar with, flow state. As Ego explained it, this is a state of mental immersion, when you become so focused on a task that you get into a trance-like state. Isagi later tried to figure out how he could tap into this trance-like state once again. With the help of Hiyori and Nanase, Isagi figured out that he only tapped into this power because of Shido and Rin's infighting, and if he wanted to replicate this moment once again, he would have to find a new set of conditions to activate it. Lucky enough, he would get just the chance to do so with the U20 Japan match beginning. The match began with the U20 Japan team snuffing out most of Blue Lock's attacks, and soon after they would counter with their own attack led by Itoshi Sai. Sae made a sneaky flick pass to Sendo, whose shot was saved, but collecting the rebound, Sae managed to score in an impossible angle, making the game 1-0. Blue Lock would later answer back with a goal of their own, a miracle goal scored by Nagi Seishiro, which left the game at 1-1, but not for long as Rin managed to get the second goal for Blue Lock before halftime. Despite Blue Lock leading the game, Isagi had a pretty uneventful match, simply just spectating for the most part. That would all change in the second half once Shido stepped on the field. Immediately after being subbed on, Shido had an instant impact on the game, scoring 2 goals and helping the Japan team take the lead. All hope felt lost for the Blue Lockers as the game was nearing its end, but that's when Isagi snapped and told Ego he better make them win. Ego responded by subbing on Baro, who would later score a goal to equalize by fixating his entire game around Isagi. This would be the catalyst for the final play of the match. With 1 minute left on the clock, the next goal would be crucial in deciding the victor. In one final moment, Rin matched up with Sae in a battle of brothers. The battle was intense with multiple flicks and turns, but ultimately Rin won by poking away from Sae and into the air. And this would lead to Isagi finally tapping into that flow state once again. Betting his life on the 1-versus-1 between the brothers, Isagi positioned himself perfectly for the ball to fall right in his sights, and hitting a direct shot that sealed Blue Lock's victory, with the media crowning him the hero of Blue Lock. Before we cover Isagi's final form, let's first quickly cover Bastard Munchen Isagi. After this huge triumph for the Blue Lock project, Isagi and the rest of the team were given some downtime to let off some steam before the beginning of the newly formed Neo Egoist League. This league hosted 5 teams from all around the world, and each Blue Lock player had to pick one team to join. Isagi chose the team that hosted his favorite player in the world, Noel Noah. Whilst Isagi was at Bastard Munchen, he He wore a red and black football kit with the Bastard München logo right at the center. Isagi's time at Bastard München started off really tough. Not only was he on the bench for the first match of the NEL, he was also tormented by the ace striker of Bastard München, Michael Kaiser, calling Isagi names like clown and loser. Their rivalry became absolutely personal. In the match against Barca, Isagi had a front row seat to see just how good this ace striker really was. And safe to say, he definitely got his answer, calling Kaiser the perfect embodiment of Blue Lock's ideals. If Isagi wanted to take over this team, he had to surpass him, and he would finally get close to that in the match against Manshine City. In this match, Isagi discovered a new ability called Metavision, an ability he learned whilst studying Kaiser's movements. Metavision, to put it simply, is an ability that boosts a player's field of vision, expanding his perception, allowing him to read every play, every shift, every micro movement across the pitch. It's basically a power that boosts every aspect of your game. This ability would become a staple in this form of Isagi. During this match, Isagi would absolutely abuse this power, using it to read every play, movement, and attack pattern of every player. It was like he was some type of footballing god. At the climax of the game, Isagi would go on a duo run with Noel Noah, slicing through Manshine's defense, seeking for his first goal in the NEL. Kaiser would obviously get in Isagi's way and try to steal the goal for himself, but that's when Isagi sacrificed his own ego by passing the ball to Yukimiya to score the winner. He did all this just to prove to Kaiser that he could beat him, and from then on, Kaiser saw Isagi as his greatest rivalry. Isagi would go on to score 2 goals in the next match against Italy's Ubers, causing Kaiser to lose his absolute mind. By this point, Blue Lock's player rankings were measured in salaries. The higher your performance, the higher your paycheck. It's important to note, in this form, Isagi trash-talked way more than he usually did, and he was way more confident in his abilities as a striker, showing his obvious growth from when he first began in Blue Lock. And finally, Demon King Isagi. After the games against Barca, Manshine, and Ubers, Isagi grew to become one of the top-ranked players in the entire league, only behind the one man that's been a thorn in his side from the moment he stepped foot in Blue Lock, Itoshi Rin. And the final match against PXG would finally decide who is the best striker in Blue Lock. From kickoff, the game was electric. Kaiser quickly tried attacking the center of the pitch, but he was blocked by Shido and forced to pass. Moments later, Karasu stole the ball, only for Kunigami to flick it high into the air, triggering a sprint between Zantetsu and Raichi. The ball dropped perfectly toward Rin, but Isagi had already read the play. He cut it off, intercepting before Rin could react. It was pretty clear that this match wasn't going to be easy for either side. As the match continued, we finally got the first few goals of the match, with Isagi scoring after Shido's opener to equalize the score with a new technique, the 2-gun volley. At this point, the Bastard team was almost entirely centered around Isagi, but that only provoked Kaiser. Fueled by jealousy, Kaiser scored a godlike solo goal to make it 2-1. Still, Isagi wasn't done evolving. Throughout the match, he unlocked new layers to his game. He learned to read the egos of others, distinguishing between world-style players who chase dominance and self-style players who thrive in isolation. By understanding their egos, Isagi could manipulate them, twisting every move, every decision to bend the entire match toward his will. Isagi realized something deeper too. He wasn't born a genius. He was actually just a talented learner, a monster who could adapt to any genius. But in the chaos of the final minutes, that realization nearly broke him. He began to doubt himself until he saw one final opening, a new formula, combining everything he had learned: spatial awareness, flow, metavision, ego. He gambled it all on Alexis Ness's evolution. As Ness looked for Kaiser, Isagi ran into the exact space Ness's mind had visualized. In an intense moment, Ness blasted the ball into the space, but when he looked up, it wasn't Kaiser there, it was Isagi. In that instant, he became the image of the perfect striker, the embodiment of what Ness believed was the best striker in the world. And with one devastating strike, goal, scoring a super goal that sealed Bastard München's victory, making him the #1 ranked player with the salary of $240 million. Did you ever wonder what the best goal in the Neo Egoist League is? Maybe it's this one or this one? But what about the best goal in every match? There's definitely a ton to choose from. In fact, what if we pick the best goal in the entire Blue Lock series? Well, in today's video, we're gonna go through the Blue Lock series and pick out the best goal from each match ever. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, we'll uncover the greatest goal ever scored. Now, this is going to be tough, because Blue Lock has had so many amazing matches. From 2v2 games like Nagi and Isagi versus Ballon and Naruhaya, all the way to huge 11-a-side games like the U20 Japan match. Not to mention the longest match in the entire series, Bastard Munchen versus PXG. Yeah, that match was really long. But here's the thing, just picking the most popular goal from each match wouldn't really do it justice. So we need some rules to accurately figure out the best goal. Firstly, the goal must be one of, if not the flashiest looking in the match. Seems obvious, right? Secondly, we'll look at how good the build-up to the goal was and impact the goal had on the story. For example, let's say we have two goals. One is super flashy, but there's barely any build-up. The other is a little less flashy, but has an incredible build-up and changes the course of the game. We'll pick the goal with the better build-up and story impact. Thirdly, hype factor. We'll consider how hyped the goal was. A goal can be technically perfect, but if the crowd or viewers didn't lose their minds, then it's not the winner. Also, no off-screen goals or flashbacks. The goal has to be something we actually see happen in the series. Once a goal checks all these boxes, best goal in the match, incredible build-up, and max hype, we have ourselves a winner. Now that we got that out the way, let's begin with the 2v2 match between Isagi and Nagi versus Ballon and Naruhaya. After losing to Rin in the top 3 during the second selection, Isagi, Nagi, and 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 were forced to split up, leaving Isagi and Nagi as a duo. Looking to bounce back and climb their way to a rematch, they chose Ballon and Naruhaya as their next opponents. And let me tell you, this match was absolutely nuts, with multiple amazing goals that made this match insanely exciting to watch. But out of all these goals, which one was truly the best? Some fans might say it was Nagi's back heel into a volley goal, or even better, his black hole trap shot. Yeah, that was pretty insane. Or maybe, just maybe, you're a Ballon fan and prefer his dominant opening goal. These are all great goals, but they don't quite fit the criteria of the best goal of the entire match. That title belongs to Isagi's insane final goal to seal the win. I mean, this goal had everything. An incredible build-up with Isagi finally finding the perfect combination between his weapon and Naruhaya's. The hype was off the charts, and visually, it's one of the best goals we've seen so far. Seriously, just look at this. If this isn't a masterpiece, I don't know what is. Even though this 2v2 match was actually one of the only ones we saw in its entirety, I want to give a shout out to Shido's first goal in the match between his duo and Kunigami's. It was truly spectacular. Remember the match I previously mentioned between Isagi, Nagi, and 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 versus Rin, Tokimitsu, and Aryu? Well, that match had some serious bangers in them, like this insane combination between Nagi and Isagi, or Rin's goal from the freaking halfway line. Talk about absurd. But that's nothing compared to the goal I picked as the best goal in this match. Let me give you a rundown of how it went. Alright, so in this match, Isagi is slowly but surely starting to realize the gap between him and Rin, with Rin scoring a brace and absolutely reading Isagi's plays like a book. But he thought his team still had a chance to come back with his goal to be the catalyst. Well, Rin shut this thought up real quick by showing the difference in their abilities with his perfectly curved shot, making Isagi question the difference in power. This goal fits the 3 rules perfectly. It impacted Isagi's whole perception of how he viewed Rin's abilities and what he needs to do to catch up. It was super hype, and I could watch this goal over and over again. And if you thought that goal was wild, wait till you see the next one. But before that, Rin is holding this humongous red button that he thinks you should tap. Do me a favor and tap it as hard as you can. Alright, let's get back to the video. Now we're heading into the match where Nagi, Isagi, and Ballon go head-to-head with Ryo, Kunigami, and Chigiri. And this match gave us one of the most insane moments that straight up broke Ballon mentally. Throughout the game, Ballon completely refused to pass, trying to do everything by himself, which made Nagi and Isagi absolutely furious. They realized the only way to win was to completely ignore Ballon and rely on each other. which led to this absolutely wild team play. Fast, precise, genius-level coordination. Now, as good as that goal was, it's not my pick for best goal, because just a few minutes later, Isagi scores using his signature direct shot, and later forces Baru to do the unthinkable. Pass the ball! You could see it. Baru literally shivered in fear. His ego was shattered. But of course, Baru wasn't going down like that. He finally awakens and absolutely teared the field to shreds with chop dribbles left and right that had everybody shocked. And then he scores a goal so brutal, I had to double check if this was still a sports anime. Straight up insane to watch. But we're not done yet. Let's move on to the final match of the second selection. After beating Kunigami, Chigiri, and Ryo, Isagi and Nagi finally get their revenge match against Rin's team. This time, Chigiri joins their squad. And when I say this match had so many spectacular goals, I mean it. From the very first play, it's chaos. Like seriously, as soon as the match began, we get this ultra-coordinated attack that sent goosebumps down my spine. But even that wasn't the craziest goal of this match, because right after, Rin absolutely embarrasses everyone. He feinted not just one player, not just two, but three players before burying a goal like it's nothing. Still, this wasn't the best goal of the match. That title almost went to Nagi's two-stage volley. He made Rin look like a traffic cone. It felt like they were literally trying to one-up each other, goal for goal. But even so, I still think there was a goal that single-handedly surpassed all of them. I'm talking about Isagi's incredible back heel direct shot that tied the score. Now, I know some of you are thinking, no way that beats Nagi's volley, it was way flashier. True, Nagi's goal looked better and had that wow factor, but it lacked the incredible buildup and impact that Isagi's goal had. Isagi's goal wasn't just flashy, it was pure strategy. Just think about it. Isagi's goal was orchestrated entirely on his own. He saw the entire future of the game. Even in the last moment when Rin finally caught on to Isagi's vision, Isagi was still one step ahead. He tricked Rin, made him believe he stopped the play, then bang! Back heel! Goal! Genius! But hey, if you disagree, drop your pick in the comments. Let's see who you think scored the best goal in this match. Before we move on to the third selection, let's talk about the match against the World 5. Probably the most one-sided match in all of Blue Lock. The Blue Lockers only scored once. So what's the best goal here? If we're sticking to the rules I've been using, Loki's goal wins by a landslide. Flashy? Check. Hype? Check. Impact? Huge! It showed us the massive gap between Blue Lock and world-class football. Like, the Blue Lock squad has a long way to go. Okay, that match was pretty anticlimactic. Don't worry, the next match turns things up. In the third selection, players were split into 5-man teams, all trying to earn a spot in the Blue Lock 11. And the first game was Team A, led by Rin and Shido, versus Team B, led by Karasu and Otoya. And the best goal of this match? Undoubtedly Isagi's flow state goal. Now, the anime might have undersold it, but trust me, this goal was something special. This was our first real look at flow, that zone where everything clicks. Some other goals were great too. Rin's blind spot snipe between 3 defenders, Shido's no-look rocket shot, but nothing really comes close to the hype Isagi's goal had. He literally surpassed Rin and Shido with it. And speaking of surpassing expectations, let's not forget Nagi's goal against Team A. He straight up trapped Yukima's gyro shot mid-air, and then unleashed a ridiculous volley straight into the net. No bounce, no hesitation, just genius. Yeah, best goal of that match, hands down. And we're just getting started. We still have plenty of matches left to cover, and even crazier goals to break down. You might have forget, but in the first arc of Blue Lock, we got 4 full-on 11-a-side matches that deserve some serious spotlight. So let's cover them, starting with Team Z versus Team X. Let's be honest, Team Z got absolutely wrecked by Baru in this match. The man was a one-man army, but just when things looked hopeless, Isagi and Bachira launched one final push. They sliced through Team X's defense like a knife through butter, Bachira pulling defenders left and right with his insane dribbling. This opened the field perfectly for Isagi. Bachira sends a lob pass towards Isagi, but at this point, he never had a strong striker's ego and got nervous at the sight of the king Baru in front of him. All he could do was pass it to Kunigami, and that's when Kunigami rips a long-range blast right into the back of the net. That definitely deserves to be the best goal of the match, although this goal was pretty spectacular in its own right. The next match had the iconic goal that made Blue Lock one of the most popular sports manga ever. Now, this game was much closer than you might think. Isagi finally taps into his striker's ego and unleashes his very first direct shot. Just pure instinct. The iconic first direct shot helped Team Z take the lead. Although this goal was extremely hype, it was also meaningful. It marked a turning point for Isagi, and for that reason, it's hands down the best goal of the match. 𝑦𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓! Oh shoot, I got a little carried away. Team Z versus Team W? Now this game? Oh, this one made me so angry. Because Kuon, yeah, that guy, decides to straight up cheat. He scores 3 goals by cutting deals behind Team Z's back. Then has the audacity to switch sides mid-game and help the opponents win. What a snake! But Team Z weren't just going to sit there and allow this. With the clock ticking down, they answered Kuon's betrayal with the most savage response possible. They scored a last-minute equalizer to tie the match. And who pulled it off? None other than 𝑦𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓, the speed demon himself. Finally breaking free of the mental chains holding him back, he sprinted past the entire defense. And with a ballerina toe poke, he gently put the ball in the back of the net. That wraps up the first 3 11-a-side games. And don't worry, we're not done yet. We've still got 6 more games to cover. And the goals only get crazier from here. Team Z versus Team V. There really is only 2 goals to pick from if we're being totally honest. 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓's incredible solo dribble into a literal Rabona and Nagi's curiosity goal. It was so hard to choose the winning goal because they're both so amazing. I mean, Nagi single-handedly created this goal on his own. With this being his first time actually being excited about football, he overcame his boredom to create the most ludicrous goal you'll ever see. Well, on the other hand, 𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 absolutely broke what we thought was possible from a single player in Blue Lock. He casually blitzed past each and every player, reminiscing of the famous 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄 goal. But there really can only be one winner, which is 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄's solo goal. And that wraps up the first selection's 11-a-side games. Now it's time for the big boys. Welcome to the game that changed Blue Lock forever. U20 Japan versus Blue Lock 11. This match had nothing short of amazing goals. From minute 1 to minute 90, we were left at the edge of our seats just seeing these ridiculous goals. But what goal in this match was truly one above all? Maybe it could be Saya's remake of Roberto Carlos' tight angle goal. Yeah, not quite. Perhaps Baru's goal. I don't think so. There are only 3 goals that really deserve to be in the conversation of best goal, and 2 of them are Shido's and the other Nagi's. I wouldn't blame any of you if you picked any of these 3 as the best goal, because they're all so great, but my pick for the best goal in the U20 Japan match is Shido's Big Bang Drive. Nagi's goal did come so close though. Like the hype alone for his goal was out of this world. Not even that. His celebration was so cold too. And not to mention how beautifully this goal was animated. But Shido's goal really just stands above all. The sheer difficulty of the goal was just exquisite. Not to mention the fact that he entered flow too. It's literally a carbon copy of Zlatan's own bicycle kick. We've got 4 more goals to cover before we officially crown the greatest goal in all of Blue Lock. Let's move to Bastard München versus FC Barcelona. Now, this might surprise you, but my pick for the best goal in this match is Noel Noah's ambidextrous goal. Yeah, I know some of you are yelling, what about Lavinho's butterfly dance goal? And don't get me wrong, it was a ridiculous goal, but flashy solo dribble goals are kind of common in Blue Lock. Not to say his wasn't amazing, it's just something we've seen before. Noel Noah's goal stood out because of precision, technique, and his insane use of both feet. Next up, Bastard München versus Mannheim City. Now, this match was hyped to the max, and it delivered. Let's not waste time here. The best goal is obviously 1000% Nagi's 5-stage revolver. This goal literally broke the internet. That should tell you how insane it was. Nagi faked out both Isagi and Kaiser before dismantling the net with that shot. Not to mention that the goal is literally called a miracle goal. If this isn't the best goal in the match, then we've all lost our minds. Before we cover the final game of the NEL, let's first go through the Ubers versus Bastard match. Not only did this match start with a lightning quick attack that was stuffed by the ace-eater himself, we also got our first taste of Uber's Baru-centric attack that strictly existed to serve him. He literally subjugated the entire Uber system and nutmegged 4 frickin' players to score. 4! Talk about insane! But that still doesn't cut it as the best goal of the match, because Kaiser's goal takes that spot with the most ridiculous piece of skill I've ever seen. I mean, how the hell did he score this goal while being off-balanced? The technique, the power, the sheer absurdity of it, I still don't know how it went in. Now for PXG versus Bastard München. This match was nothing short of breathtaking, literally. Not only was the match so frickin' long, it also provided the most intense football we've ever experienced in Blue Lock. From the Kaiser Impact Magnus, to Rin's mid-air free kick, and even Shido's diving header. Every single goal in this match was a masterpiece, which makes this choice so hard hard, but there can only be one winner. And the best goal of the match goes to Isagi's final goal. He read the entire game like a chessboard. And just when we all gave up on Ness, Isagi banked his life on his evolution and did the impossible, surpass Kaiser's ideal play. Simply genius. So that leaves us with one final question. What's the greatest goal in all of Blue Lock? The truth is, there's no definitive answer. There are so many goals that could wear the crown, but if we're talking about the most impressive, with the craziest build-up, and the highest hype factor, it really comes down to two. Nagi's 5-stage revolver and Shido's Big Bang Drive. Both are legendary. Both deserve to be called the GOAT. But the final decision? I'll leave that to you. Let me know in the comments below, which goal do you think is the best in all of Blue Lock? Thanks for watching.
Did you ever wonder what would have happened if the Ballon d'Or was awarded to the best player of each arc in Blue Lock? Who would win it? Would it be Rin for his outstanding performance against the World 5, or Isagi for his amazing goal in the Blue Lock versus U20 Japan match, or would 𝑩𝒂𝒆𝒔𝒕𝒆𝒓 luck carry him to the top of the Ballon d'Or rankings? Now, in the real world, the Ballon d'Or has a set of rules to determine who deserves the award. It's based on 3 criteria: individual performance, team performance, and class or fair play. Now, the third one might be tricky for the Blue Lockers, since they all love to trash talk, and their mentor himself promotes it. Their attitude might just deteriorate their chances of winning it, like the real-life footballer Vinicius Jr. Now that we got the rules out of the way, let's look at the first arc of Blue Lock, which is the first selection. The focus of the first selection was for the Blue Lockers to learn how to turn football from 0 to 1. What this basically means is, 0 is when a player is not productive on the pitch, or not producing enough for the end goal of scoring a goal. If your football is at 0, you add no value to the team and might as well sit the game out. When your football is at 1, it means the player is very productive in the game, actively making plays to achieve the goal of scoring. You are your team's light, the player the whole team looks to take them out of sticky situations. So which player best represents this idea of turning football from 0 to 1? Well, in the first selection, there really is only 2 players who embody this philosophy to the core: Nagi Saishiro and Baru Shuei. Nagi turned football from 0 to 1 by being the focal point of every attack team. V-May, his brilliant first touch and eye for goal gave the whole team confidence to always pass to him and allow him to make the plays that lead to a goal. Baru turned his football from 0 to 1 by having the strongest mentality and dominating the field of play with his proficient dribbling. When Baru's team was in disarray, he took it upon himself to lead the team and establish himself as the focal point of all the team's attacks by scoring the first goal. His team recognized his talent and felt his drive to be the king, and they acted accordingly to help him achieve that goal. Now, between Nagi and Baru, who best embodied this idea of turning 0 to 1? Although Nagi scored the more beautiful goals, Baru definitely represented this ideal the best. His reliance on his own talents and his reluctance to need his teammates' help to score a goal is what made his turning football from 0 to 1 the better representation. Nagi relied too much on passes from Ryo and Zantetsu rather than being individualistic and taking the ball all by himself to score a goal. So that's a point for Baru in the rankings. Now that we've established who best represented Ego's philosophy of 0 to 1 and identified the top 2 in the Ballon d'Or rankings, let's look at the 3 criteria and see who deserves the Ballon d'Or. For team performance, the point goes to Nagi and Team V. Team V had much better chemistry and played football beautifully with outstanding plays and wonder goals. The trio of Ryo, Nagi, and Zantetsu was the best attacking 3 in the first selection. Baru's team was really carried by Baru. Nothing to do with the great team performance, so that's 1 point for Nagi. The second category is class and fair play. Now, this category is pretty subjective and really doesn't apply to the first selection. Maybe if Kwon was in this ranking, it would apply to him. But anyway, both Baru and Nagi played fair, and there wasn't really any bad attitude from either of them, unlike a certain someone. So they both get a point. The score is now 2-2. The third and final criteria is individual performance. Which of these 2 geniuses had the better overall performance in this arc? Well, if we look at who was the top goal scorer of the first selection, it was both Nagi and Baru with 10 goals apiece. Since the amount of goals won't tell us who had the better individual performance, we'll have to look at who scored the better goals. And now the winner for this criteria becomes more clear. Since we only saw 2 of Baru's goals in the first selection, and they weren't very good-looking goals, the winner for this criteria goes to Nagi by a landslide. I mean, we all expected this. Nagi has the best catalog of goals in the first selection, maybe in the whole of Blue Lock as well, with goals like this. Yeah, Nagi is definitely winning this criteria, which means a point goes to Nagi for individual performance, and that would mean the the winner of the first ever Blue Lock Ballon d'Or goes to Nagi Saishiro with 3 points to Baru's 2. And here's the final rankings. Nagi at number 1, Baru at number 2, Ryo in 3rd, Zantetsu in 4, Nico in 5th, Junichi Wanima in 6th, Kunigami at number 7. I wonder which of these players will rise in the next rankings and eventually win a Ballon d'Or. The second selection is where things get interesting. From the first selection, 125 strikers from each of the stratum remain. The second selection is then divided into 4 different stages. It's a leveling system in which strikers are only allowed to move on after they clear each stage. Those who clear this selection will participate in a strengthening training camp with players from all around the world. The first stage is an individual match between the striker and the blue lock man, a holographic goalkeeper. The striker must score 100 goals within 90 minutes to pass within a limited area. After 30 goals, the difficulty increases as more holograms that are stationary are added. After 60 goals, the additional holograms begin moving quickly and the balls that are sent are faster and spinning. For the Ballon d'Or award, we will have to look at who performed the best in these 4 stages. Starting with the first stage, the 3 players who finished the first stage the fastest are Rin, Ryo, and Tokimitsu, which means they are leading the rankings of the Ballon d'Or in that order. The top 3 has totally changed from the first Ballon d'Or to think that Tokimitsu actually made it on this list. With the way he's been playing in the latest chapters, I doubt this would still be the case. The second stage is a match between teams of 2 and the elimination stage of the second selection. If you don't get chosen from the second stage, then you are eliminated from Blue Lock. We're gonna skip this one for now since it relies on the third stage and is basically a loser's bracket. Speaking of the third stage, it is a match between teams of 3. The team that scores 5 goals first wins. The winning team takes 1 member from the losing team and continues to the 4th stage. Then the losing team will have to return to the second stage. So who exactly had the best individual performance in this stage? Well, if we're going purely on stats, ability, domination, and sheer quality, then it definitely has to be Aitoshi Rin, but Shira with a huge climb to second place, Nagi at 3rd, Ryo at 4th, and Isagi at 5th, which means Rin has scored 2 points towards the second Ballon d'Or awards. So the rankings for the second selection Ballon d'Or so far is Rin at number 1 with 2 points, Ryo at 2 with 2 points, Bachira at 3 with 1 point, Nagi at 4th with 1 point, and Isagi at 5th with 1 point. I know Shido, Yukimiya, Otoya, and Karasu are not in these rankings just yet. That's because all their feats were off screen and we can't really gauge how good or bad their team and individual performances were. Now, onto the 4th and final stage of the second selection. It's a 4v4 match, and the winner of this match advances to the 3rd selection, while the loser goes back down to the 3rd stage. This is where we truly see the gap between the Blue Lock elite and everyone else. From the opening whistle, Rin asserts his dominance. His spatial awareness, precision, and ability to control the game with his sheer presence put Team Red ahead early. But on the other side, Isagi starts to evolve. His ability to read the field and adapt is reaching new heights. Bachira, with his insane dribbling skills, puts on a show, while Nagi continues to prove why he's one of the most technically gifted players in Blue Lock. The match is a war, and when the dust settles, Team Red takes the win. But in terms of individual performance, Rin still stands at the top. His ability to dictate the game and completely shut down Isagi's plans proves his quality, and that means Rin takes home the second selection Ballon d'Or with a total of 3 points. The final rankings for the second selection Ballon d'Or are Rin Itoshi at number 1 with 3 points, Ryo at number 2 with 2 points, and Bachira, Nagi, and Isagi at 3, 4, and 5 with 2 points each. Rin really didn't have a struggle winning the second selection Ballon d'Or. Now, moving on to the 3rd selection, where things get even crazier. This arc is basically a training arc for the match against the Japan U20s. But before these matches happen, the Blue Lockers will have to verse the World 5, the best players in the entire world of Blue Lock. These guys are the professionals of top clubs in football. So who best performed in these matches? Itoshi Rin, because he was the only person to score a goal against the World 5 before absolutely getting annihilated by them. So Rin gets 1 point for his brilliant performance. Now onto the 3rd selection. It's a 5v5 match with the top 6 players of Blue Lock as the leaders of each team. Team A is led by Rin and Shido, Team B is led by Otoya and Karasu, while Team C is led by Nagi and Yukimiya. So of course, these 6 top players of Blue Lock will be leading the race for the Ballon d'Or with 1 point each, which means Rin has 2 points. Adding on to his previous point from scoring against the World 5, now who had had the best team performance in the third selection? Well, let's see. Rin and Shido couldn't work together for anything to save their lives, always clashing. So you know any team they had was not functional at all, but got the job done. So Rin and Shido's team is ruled out for best team performance, which leaves Karasu and Otoya versus Nagi and Yuki. Between these two, who had the better team? If we're going off chemistry, best plays, and who best worked together as a team, I have to give it to Otoya and Karasu. They clearly had the most chemistry, which means their team would have it too. So that means Otoya and Karasu both get a point for team performance, which puts them at 2 points neck and neck with Rin. This might be the tightest Ballon d'Or race yet. For the second criteria, which is class and fair play, I'm just going to hand this point to everyone except Shido and Rin because they bickered and fought the entire arc. That is definitely not classy, and this man Shido was trying to throw hands with everyone. So that's 2 points for Nagai and Yukimiya. Rin and Shido remain on 2 and 1 point respectfully, and Karasu and Otoya are both on 3 points. Now this is interesting. Karasu and Otoya take the lead. The final criteria is individual performance. Who dominated the field of play, scored the most goals, had the most impact on each game? Well, then the winner for this point is very clear. It has to be shared between Shido and Rin for both of them scoring the most goals out of the 6 leaders while being handicapped by each other. They completely dominated this arc while fighting against each other. So that's 3 points for Rin. Karasu and Otoya remain at 3 as well. Shido goes up to 2 points, while Nagi and Yukimiya stay at 2 points. So that means the winner of the third selection Ballon d'Or goes to... Wait, what? It's a tie between Rin, Karasu, and Otoya. Since the Ballon d'Or is an individual award and only one person can win it, we will have to have a tiebreaker. So what will decide the winner of the third selection Ballon d'Or? Simple. Who carried their team the most? Simply put, who was the best player on their team? Well, now we can see the clear and obvious winner. This point goes to Itoshi Rin for single-handedly dealing with that mess of a team and dragging them to multiple wins with brilliant performances. Although Shido helped too. So that means the winner of the third selection Ballon d'Or goes to Itoshi Rin with 4 points and back-to-back Ballon d'Ors. He really is Blue Lock's #1. The final rankings is as follows. Rin as the winner with 4 points. Karasu at #2 with 3 points. Otoya at 3rd with 3 points. Shido at #4 with 2 points. Nagi at 5th with 2 points. Finally, we move to the match that truly changed everything. The Blue Lock 11 versus Japan U20 match. This is the match that defines who the real future of Japanese football is. The stakes are sky high, and the Blue Lock players are put to the ultimate test. 11 versus 11, striker against striker, egoist against egoist. First, we have to establish our top 5 for this arc's Ballon d'Or. Now to do this, we have to go off who had a significant impact on the game, and who had the most amount of important moments throughout this game. The 5 players that fit this role are Shido, Aiku, Rin, Nagi, Isagi, Baru, and Sai. But wait, that's 7 players I just named. Guess there is a top 7 instead. The first criteria that will determine the winner of the 4th Blue Lock Ballon d'Or is class and fair play. Now this criteria once again is very subjective, but I think every player did behave accordingly, so that's 1 point for everyone in the top 7. The next criteria is team performance between the Japan U20 and the Blue Lock 11. Which team played the best, had the best chemistry, and worked together brilliantly? My personal opinion, I think it was the Blue Lock 11, because every single player had a role to play in the game. From Gagamaru's incredible saves, to Nico's brilliant reading of the game, Shigiriu's blistering pace. Everyone in the Blue Lock 11 played their hearts out, working together. Even though the Japan U20 had the most impressive defense, a well-oiled machine that blocked and stopped several of the Blue Lockers' attacks, it was still a Shido, Sai, and Aiku show. All of their goals were made by 2 people only, while Blue Lock's score sheet was spread out between 4 players and even a substitute score. So the point for team performance goes to Rin, Isagi, Nagi, and Baru. So that means they all have 2 points, while Aiku, Shido, and Sai stay on 1. The next and final criteria is individual performance. Who dominated the field of play, had the most goals and assists, and overall was the MVP of the match. Well, the person who had the most goals and assists, and the most goal scoring chances created in this game was Itoshi Sai, with 2 assists and 1 goal, and several opportunities to score created. That's a definition of dominating the field of play. Everything revolved around him. But there's also a conversation to be made with Aiku. Although he didn't score, he was the best defender by far. He read every play and blocked dangerous attacks from Blue Lock with his flow state. I have to give him a shout. Another contender is Shido with his outstanding goals. By far the most exciting player on the pitch. He made us get out of our seats and cheer with his goals. 𝑣𝒆𝒄𝒄 had a brilliant performance entering flow state and single-handedly decimating Japan's defense, even beating the Oliver Aiku. He also had 2 assists in this game and 1 goal. And last but not least, Isagi Yoichi, the hero of this game, the one that scored the final goal to end the game in Blue Lock's favor. But there can only be one winner of this criteria, and it is Itoshi-sai. Come on, it had to be him. He carried the U20 Japan team, creating so many chances for them, bagging a goal and unleashing Shido to a new level. So that means Isagi, Rin, Baru, Nagi, and Sai all tied up at 2 points, with Aiku and Shido still on 1. There can only be one winner for a Ballon d'Or, so we have to settle this with who had the most impact in this game, who carried their team, and who was the main character for this game. Now the winner is 100% clear. The winner of the 4th Blue Lock Ballon d'Or goes to Itoshi-sai. It had to be him. He was the main character of this game. He made his team play better, and although he didn't score the winning goal, without him the U20 Japan team would have been destroyed by the Blue Lockers. So the final ranking is as follows. Sei as the winner with 3 points, Rin at 2nd with 2 points, Isagi at 3rd with 2 points, Nagi at 4th with 2 points, Baro at 5th with 2 points, Shido and Aiku at 6th and 7 with 1.
If you made it to the end, you're a legend. Click this video to continue enjoying more awesome content.